And this was going to be my first introduction to Faron and Flint. This place just opened up before my eyes. Christ, what have I missed here? Did I really want to put any effort into chasing another clearly rare and difficult to catch £50 common? It was a big, big carp, too big to ignore. In the half light of dawn, I just see this great big bulk of common. You've just got to accept that there will be times on these sort of lakes where it ain't going to go your way.
Well, this is one of those fish that I came up here for.
It really was one of the best starts possible that you could have had back. Well, it was a good while till I got back to Flint. In fact, from memory, it was probably around late July. I sort of remember doing my first lap around the lake, thinking, Jesus, the weed was phenomenal this year. Now, you've got to remember, I spent a lot of years in and around that area, looking at those lakes, you know, a decade or so ago. And like this particular trip, I drove past Burfield, Pingewood, Engie, and I'd never seen the lakes that weedy in the past. It was an exceptional year. However, those weather systems had worked their magic or whatever, the cycle of weed was immense everywhere. I mean, there was vast swathes of Burfield, literally unfishable, like a football pitch, just green as far as the eye could see, hundreds of metres of solid weed. And Flint was pretty full on, you know, and it clearly put a number of anglers off. The car parks were quiet. Did a few laps of the lake, and I remember dropping into a swim called Waiting Man's. Did a night in there after seeing a mirror show quite close in, and the morning was quiet. A bit of low cloud and drizzle and whatnot. And I remember walking into the Murders next door, which is a very shallow pinch point area between the main section of lake or the two main sections of lake really. So you're right in the centre of that island, but the opposite side of the lake to the big front. As I say, it's mainly shallow, very picturesque little swim, got tucked away, a lovely swim as it goes. And funnily enough, the year before I'd done a night or two in there early on, and it was, if the lake was busy, it always seemed to be the one swim that was free. In fact, when we did our Burfield film, we finished very late and it was a moon again, and I got back to the lake around 6 o'clock, and that was the only swim that was free. So it seemed a fairly quietish area at that time, but it was always somewhere I'd sort of earmarked as being very close to the area that I'd seen that pristine common on that first year, and where it had been caught subsequently in the autumn. And as an angler that likes to sort of target fish and work out the patterns of movement of carp and where they get caught, and use that information to my advantage alongside sightings and stuff, started to piece things together slowly. Anyway, this particular morning, something pretty special happened. I was standing there in that swim watching the shallow water, and I saw a big tail out of the water like this. It's feeding on one of the shallow bars, clearly a big one. Legged it back to the other swim, got my binoculars, started having a look at this tail. Could see it was a common. Now the two big commons in there, the Flint common and the Pristine, two quite different fish in their characteristics. One's a big dark chocolate fish with a bit of a ragged tail, that's the Flint common, the smaller of the two. And the Pristine is a big golden thick-set fish with a very perfect tail. And this was clearly the one I was looking at. So I quickly went and got all my kit, moved into the swim, had one night left, and fished light leads in, just fanned my rods out in the area for drops, a few boilies powdered out there with a catapult, and The morning was quiet, but similar sort of time to when I saw that fish the previous morning, around 10 o'clock. I saw this tail appear again, and it worked its way up and down the bar. I actually walked down from the swim to a little viewing area by a stream inlet from Burfield. There's a little sort of water inlet there. And I'm viewing from there, but there was a big area of scum in front of that viewing spot. Surface weed and scum. And as I stood there, there was a disturbance, and up popped a grebe. Now this is very relevant. In that grebe's beak was a crayfish, probably about 6 inches blooming long, which was interesting. The grebes were eating the crays. The crays do populate this very shallow, gravelly area. Anyway, I sort of stored that bit of information away. I've gone back to my swim, and nothing happened during the rest of the morning, but before I left, I sort of raked a bit of a couple of line lay areas to likely spots. Because it was so hot, I wasn't wearing my waders. I was in there just in a pair of shorts. And I felt something on my foot. Anyway, it was a bloody great crayfish. Anyway, I've jabbed it with my prodding stick, and it's just literally disintegrated. It sounds disgusting, I know. But at the time, clearly, the crays were soft-shelled, so they shed their shells and what have you. And I believe at the time that those fish were taking advantage of that situation, that natural phenomena, and gorging themselves on these crays. Anyway, that weekend it was my niece's wedding and whatnot, and I couldn't get back for a few days. And then I got the phone call that the Pristine had been caught from that swim whilst I was away. So that's got significance in a number of different ways now, I suppose. So when I first went on to Flint, the few captures this Pristine common had done had come from in and around that Pads Bay, and like one or maybe two open water captures, but very close to where that Pads Bay was situated. So it almost felt like, to target that fish, which is something that I sort of like to do, you spend a lot of time in that area, and that's what I was sort of trying to do to a degree. This now started to blow all of that out of the water. It's now done a number of captures out in the pond, so it sort of opens the book a little bit, if you like, and allows you to sort of be a bit more free in your angling. And that was to be sort of exacerbated a little bit further as we go down the journey of this story. So anyway, I was still very, very interested in this murder swim, and I was sort of determined to do a bit of fishing in that zone, come what may, towards the autumn. So the next few trips I spent in that swim, caught a few nice ones, to be fair. Lovely old crusty grey mirror, again one of the sort of the main targets of the lake. It's a bit down in weight after spawning, but one that I wanted in the album nevertheless, alongside a few others. Yep.
Oh, this is sketchy, man. Can't get out of the weed. What was I saying about them ducks not diving on that spot? It's them signs from nature that tell you all you need to know sometimes. Go on, get in. Go on, get in. I think we got him.
as we sort of moved into September, had a trip booked in with the guys from Topography to do a rig film, and again I'd set up in the Murders, perfect weather for the area, and that trip was just another epic one. You know, I caught a few small ones to begin with, and then once the cameras started rolling, caught a nice mirror, and whilst we'd sort of got that fish photographed and put back, the other rods fired off, and yeah, had an epic battle. Lots of little dramas during it, a swan taking off from the bay and flying straight into my line when I've got the fish out on a long line, stuck in weed, thinking I was going to lose it and whatnot. And all the time, even from the bite, I had this feeling that I was attached to the Flint Common, and that, you know, that's all caught on camera. And I called it, you know, I said I've got, you know, feelings that this is the Flint Common. And sure enough, after I've extracted it from a number of weed beds, it's rolled up in front of the net, and there she was, this big chocolate giant of a common, pure Redding history. You know, this fish has been in the lake for eons of time, been caught by a lot of the guy. I mean, it was the #1 target for many, many years. The old Flint Common is a proper relic these days, and you know, she's showing the signs of wear and age and history and all that. But yeah, it was one I didn't want to leave Flint without catching it, and you know, she really is part of the fabric of that lake and the area really. And there she was in my net, surrounded by mates. I've got my good mate Jim Hepper in the swim. Jim had fished the lake for a bit and not caught that one, so it was lovely to have him in there to witness that and share the moment with. The following week I've turned up, and surprisingly enough, that the swim's busy. So I got on my toes, and I had this feeling that the big front was looking prime for the weather that was coming in. So I've spent a little bit of time in there, and within maybe 20 minutes of being in the swim, I've seen a nice 30-pound mirror show out there. That was good enough for me on a busy lake. I went and got my kit, moved into the swim, and I saw a few more fish that morning, so decided to, rather than cast 4-ounce leads at them, I just let them settle out there. When the activity stopped, I'd wrap my rods up, get them on the spots, put a bit of bait in, and in the meantime I'd have a quick chat to my mate Si Bater, who I knew was fishing at the same time. Whilst we were on the phone, I'm sort of gazing out of the lake, chatting, chewing the fat with him, and this big wide fish has shuffled up out of the water in front of me. And mate, it's one of the big ones. That is one of the giants. It just looked as wide as a goose at like 120 yards, and you know, I knew it was one of the real big ones. Anyway, as it slipped back into the water, the ripples have subsided, and out she's come again, but this time broadside onto me, and there was no doubt in my mind. I had my eyes glued on the particular patch of water, and this great big golden commons just come sliding up, shuffled down, big slosh of water going out everywhere, and there was no doubt in my mind that the Pristine was in the arena. And yeah, it was game on. Super exciting stuff. So yeah, obviously again, everything's done with clinical precision. The hooks are all honed to perfection, rigs are all tied up perfectly, wrap the rods up. And I think around 2 o'clock I decided to put the casts in, got them out there, and everything was set for the following morning. And the lake just started to get a little bit busier as the afternoon wore on. And a chap had turned up and dropped into a swim sort of round to my right, looking out onto the same chunk of water. Anyway, the following morning, I've heard my mate Nige Sharp, who was fishing the lake at the time, he's come round, and he said, Oz, I think mate, he's got the Pristine in the net on the point. I'm like, what, really? And he's like, yeah, I'll go around and check. Anyway, he phoned me up 5 minutes later, and sure enough, the chap that had settled in on the point for his first night had only gone and bagged her. So I wound the rods in, took my camera around there and whatnot and helped this guy out. She looked absolutely magnificent, like an absolute giant on the mat. Perfect condition, as comes with the name, the Pristine. You know, barely caught, only done a couple of handfuls of captures over time, and yeah, to see a big target on the bank for the first time was yeah, pretty impressive, if I'm honest. Albeit I could only think after the guy had returned her and I'd gone back to my bivvy, wow, this isn't the carp that I first thought all that time back. You know, I'm going to be fishing this small area of the lake, you know, this little circle where suddenly it's been caught from the murders, it's been caught from the slab, it's been caught from the point, it's been caught from... Suddenly it's become a bit of a lottery fish. In terms of captures, you almost couldn't put your finger on it now. It certainly wasn't living and eating in the pads bay all the time. It was out in the pond, even on the weediest of years. The weediest year that I'd ever seen, it was out there. It was out in open water zones. I'd seen it in my swim. It had been caught round to my left. It had been caught the other side of the island. It just seemed all a little bit random, and sort of that's what it was. It became in my head this sort of random lottery carp. It was one that now I knew realistically I just had to go fishing. I just had to go and get bites. I would still carry on looking in all the likely areas and trying to get a pinpoint on it, but aside from that, you were just going to be fishing blind, fishing for the best opportunities you could find on a busy club water, and that was it really. Ultimately, for the rest of the autumn, I just sort of dotted around and did a little bit back in the murders, a bit in the big front. I mean, that trip that the Pristine was caught, I managed 5 bites. I managed to catch another lovely, really old, original common with a strange dorsal, real proper character. Gave me the fight of my life in that big front swim, you know, took me right out the back of the islands, and yeah, very, very memorable. But to all intents and purposes, that year had given me some exceptional fishing, some great carp, some of the giants of the lake, certainly a lot of the ones that you really wanted to catch, but the big rare ones had sort of eluded me, and it was food for thought. And I knew that realistically I had to think about things again over the winter. I was going to retreat back to Kent for some rest and recuperation, and plan my attack for 2024. I'd be coming back, and hopefully at some point one of these big old giants was going to roll into my net, and fingers crossed at some point that Pristine would slip up in my favour. Coming into 2024 now, throughout that winter, kept an eye on the weather, and wow, I can't remember whether it was one of the wettest winters on record, for sure. Much of the country in flood. I knew from speaking to a couple of the lads up in the area that the Kennet had flooded into Burfield. The whole area was like a sheet of water. Very, very poor water quality because of that. So when I have gone back up there, you know, I was under no illusions it was going to be a bit of a strange spring. As it happened, the first trip was a bit of a mad one, really. It was quiet up there, to be fair. The place was a mess. You know, the water levels had subsided somewhat, but the banks were horrendous. The water level was still well up everywhere. It felt everything was a little bit back. Temperatures were down. The water was brown. You know, I've never been keen on late winter, early spring flooding. I always find that it makes a big difference in terms of water temperature, and you never know what's coming in from those rivers and off the roads and whatnot. So didn't feel that inspired on that first trip until I stumbled across a bit of bubbling going on, and it just happened to be in that murder swim. So I ran and got my kit, watched it for a while, moving about into various different areas, clearly a feeding carp. Got my rods out and whatnot, and 5 o'clock in the morning, one of the rods has trickled off. Played this fish in, just literally winched it across from the other side of the lake, straight into the net. Still dark at this point. Peered into the net, and lo and behold, there he was, my old mate, the Flint common. Right, so it's been a long old winter, and this is the first trip back up to Reading, and I waited for the old equinox to pass, daylight hours and all that, lovely bit of weather, planned my first trip in with meticulous care, looked at the weather, looked at the moon phase, timed it perfectly, left home about 3 o'clock yesterday morning, and after a good few laps of the lake, found a little bit of bubbling through the binoculars. Saw a show later on in the day, got my kit into the swim, and yeah, this morning one of the rods pinged out the clip, and I've been rewarded with an old friend, as it happens. Now, on these sort of campaigns, you know, repeat captures sort of, you know, they're part and parcel of it all. You know, I had a good year last year, and this was one of the ones that came in the autumn. It's one of the old originals, the Flint common, mega old carp. So chuffed to catch it. You know, in an ideal world, didn't really want to catch him again, but that's what happens. And you know, when you're fishing for one big one, and you know, you're sort of going through the stock, these sort of occurrences happen. So after a long old winter, I thought I'd just get him out, or get her out, have a good look at her, make sure she's all good, in good healthy condition. It's a really old carp, this one, and she looks great. So I'm just gonna give her a quick check over the other side and what have you, and I'm gonna get her straight back. You know, this is a lovely privilege to be able to hold these old fish, and I'll just hold her up for you to have a look at. But she's got a propensity to play up on the bank, so realistically I don't want to keep her out for too long. There you go. Yeah, a good morning. On these sort of lakes, when you start fishing for a period of time and you start working your way through the stock, unfortunately, for the most part, you're going to start getting some repeats. It's not ideal, it's not what you want. In an ideal world, you just clock up the right ones right the way through the process until the pinnacle, and then you move on. It was probably and clearly not going to be the case with Flint. I'd already had a few repeats, but when you get the big target fish that you know there are other anglers on there trying to catch, like for instance Scott that I mentioned that had caught the Pristine, he dearly wanted to catch the Flint common and was still on the lake. There's a significance to that in a minute, but and there I am, I've caught the fish that he wants, sort of thing. So you know, after a long hard winter, I'd give her a good check over. Jo was with me. We'd give her a bit of a treat. She had a scale missing and whatnot, and just give her a good check over and put her back. She's an old fish, down in weight from the previous autumn when I'd caught her in September. Yeah, it was a bite and things were happening. Compared to the previous spring, this one was going to be a little bit different. I was turning up, the following few trips I was turning up and struggling to get into any decent sort of position. Lake was very, very busy. It was hard to get on any fish. There was people with a good amount of time. Whereas before you'd quite often be able to bounce in between the swim, maybe spend the night somewhere and then move in for your last night. It just wasn't happening this spring, so I started just dotting around looking for vague opportunities and feeling like time was sort of slipping away quite rapidly. When the weather did improve in May, it improved so rapid, at such a rapid rate of knots, that it instigated almost an immediate spawning response. It was incredible, really. It went from almost nothing to 1,000,000 miles an hour in 24 hours. I vacated a swim. It was a Friday morning, drove home. Old Scott from up in the Midlands dropped in that swim that afternoon, and the next morning he's on the phone to me and he's like, "Oz mate, I've just had the Pristine." And yeah, it was a bit of a hammer blow, if I'm honest. Yeah, especially after being in that swim just a few hours previously. And then, you know, I've caught the fish that he's after on the first trip back, and he's pretty much caught the one that I'm after for the second time round as well. So it just, again, it just sort of cemented that realisation that it was an absolute lottery game. It was like a roulette wheel. You just spun the wheel, flung your dice in or whatever, and whatever came up, when it was your time, it was your time. So realistically, spring had almost, it was a non-event for me, really. A few captures, a lot of frustration, couldn't really get anything going, and it was just one of those periods of time you just have to roll your sleeves up, knuckle down and get on with it. You can't expect everything to go your own way all the time, especially on these longer campaigns on the busier waters, as I say. The year before, life was rosy, everything fell into place. This year it was a little bit more fragmented, and albeit I had a few captures, they weren't really the right ones. But of course we had all summer and autumn to look forward to. Sort this out. I think as we're on a new trip, read all the knots and leaders and everything. Fishing for big uns. Can't take any risks. Strip a bit of this line off. Take no chances. This is the absolute pinnacle of what we've been waiting for. What I've been waiting for anyway. This is absolutely perfect. Brilliant for this lake anyway. Settled. Light, if any, wind. Just a little bit of broken cloud, bit of sun. It's absolutely bang on. Perfect conditions for here. Not for everywhere, of course. Some places like that, rough old, turbulent, low pressure, but my experience on here is this is bang on. Fish are in the area. Seen a couple, or more than a couple. There's one out there now. Seen a big un, proper big un, close, like within 4 rod lengths of the bank. coming from right to left in the swim. So things are looking really good, really good. In fact, I'm pretty confident that something's going to occur in the morning. God, this is the weather we've been waiting for, eh, Joe? Perfect. Absolutely spot on. In fact, yeah, man. They're still out there, mate. They are still out there. Little signs, little bubbles, odd patches of fizz. Big areas of scum now as well over the back. Just looking really, really good. Hopeful for the morning. I'm sure they're going to be out here. Don't think they've gone far. Look at the signs, there's one out there now. Come on, Purse, let's have a cup of tea. Oh yeah, so there's one having a go right in the centre channel, and there's one having a little go just to the right of them snags off that island, just through the gap, so they ain't far away. I've seen a few bubbles over that left hand rod, and the ducks have been sitting over it periodically this morning, so there's definitely something going on down there, but I haven't seen any carp there yet. But it's early. It is early for these fish because they are lazy. They always remind me of old age pensioners. It takes them a while to get out of bed and get going. They are lazy. They're breakfast time carp, I would say, from my experience anyway. That typical first light bite period, just not many swims that it occurs on here. It's always after breakfast. 8-9 o'clock is prime time. So we're getting there. Watching for signs. Always. That's why we've got these. Everything was looking really good yesterday morning, very rosy. Found the carp, found a big one, and yeah, it was humid, warm, flat calm, perfect conditions. There was prolonged feeding spell yesterday morning. It looked so good. I checked out all the zones in this area. There was fish spread out right across this whole swathe of water that I'm fishing. Yeah. Got everything sorted out yesterday, everything went sweet, got the bait out, rig's perfect, went to bed with, you know, a good amount of anticipation for, you know, maybe something good happening this morning, but a little bit of a weather change. Although I've sim fished in the area, the feeding spell was very short this morning. There didn't seem to be as many fish about, but to that end, like, you know, there's no real good moves on the cards at the moment. I have seen I hung the morning out. I have seen a few fish, left the rods in position. Basically, it's just a reset for tomorrow morning. I'm hoping that things look favourable, something will happen. If not, I'm just going to wrap up, get on my toes, go looking for an opportunity around the lake. We're running into the new moon. There will be something happening somewhere. You just got to grind it out, get on some fish and make something happen. So that's the plan. Let's go for it. Much better morning this morning. Absolutely perfect for this zone, and things are looking good anyway. We've had a couple of liners this morning, in fact 3 liners, bit of fizzing, seen a couple of fish out the back, signs that they're about, which is encouraging. Coming into bite time now as well, looks great, sun's out, flat calm. Had a bit of mist burning off, that weather's blown through, weeds starting to come up on the surface now. It's looking really good, so yeah, encouraging. Just sitting here with a bit of anticipation, waiting for one of them to rattle off. See what happens, eh? $35 exactly. He was keen to get back, wasn't he? Don't blame him. Nice result though. It's good to get one. Getting back in this swim, getting the areas primed up. Had to wait a day, but yeah, everything looked good this morning. Predicted it, didn't we? Got the liners, and away she went. So hopefully it's the start of 1 or 2 more. But yeah, great start, lovely day. Good to be back. Summer's coming. Everything's looking rosy. We've had a carp. Don't get any better than that. More and more fish turning up as the hours go by. I've got to go home. There's another one out there. It's coming prime for it as well. Oh, that's not far off. A real shame to have to do this, but needs must. I've got to go. And it really does feel like a good chance has gone begging here a little bit because the conditions have just come absolutely perfect for the area. The fish are turning up in volume, and I've just got to go. And that's the be all and end all of it. You know, they just didn't turn up in numbers yesterday, and it feels like there's probably the 2 spots they're hitting. There's probably maybe a little bit too much bait there for an early bite, but who knows? I mean, I've been getting like the line lay's not ideal, but I couldn't rake it because the day that I got here, obviously the fish were they were in residence, and the last thing you want to be doing is that. So I've just sort of winged it a little bit, fished the spots, and yeah. I mean, we've had a nice 35 pounder and a couple of chances, but this morning, yeah, I mean, man, it does feel like a real shame. It's just been liner after liner, and that eelgrass has caused me a major problem, but yeah. Oh well, back next time. Going to be away for a little while now, got loads of things on. Probably when I come back, the weed's going to be a completely different ball game, but we'll see. We'll have the weed rake with us, and we'll start the whole process for the summer. But things are looking good. That's a good start, and yeah, probably try and keep this swim going a little bit over the warmer months. Try and drop in here as regularly as possible. It's a really good area, so we'll see. Again, it sort of reiterated to me the importance of the line lay in the swims and for these carp. Yeah, the deeper water swims, you could get away with it a little bit more. When you're in the shallow water, everything had to be just right. And I was getting so many liners and little opportunities that were going missing. The fish were shooting out the swim. I said to Joe, look, you know, I'm gonna have to spend a good day raking these spots out and getting everything prepped, because I had that lovely period of the summer all building up to those historic captures from that time now that we had, late summer. So I wanted to get everything just right. So I made sure I got all that done, and sure enough, you know, the following trip had a few bites. Everything looked good again until the weather broke at the end of the trip, and by midnight I'd reeled in. They were at it again. The whole length of Faron and Flint had spawning fish from the car park to the pads. So quick phone call to Dell. I was doing an angling trust event that week anyway, and he let me go over to J12 a day early, so I hadn't wasted my trip. And that was the next couple of weeks away from the lake. You know, it seemed to be that this year was a very fragmented, strange year. You know, flood water, nothing going in the spring, fish getting caught from different areas, spawning early, then a second phase of spawning. It was very awkward, but you know, you still had the rest of the year to look forward to. So I kept my chin up and was looking forward to getting back and working that area, trying to build something for the future, which I felt was possible. Anyway, when I did get back in there, I think it was early July, it would have been early July. First trip back in, I'd had all of the spots raked perfectly, big wedges going into the spots for the lines to settle nicely, been pre-baited with some nice buckets of chopped boiling seed for a few weeks now. And that first trip back was an epic one, to be fair. Caught a few small ones to begin with. The air was electric the first morning, thick low cloud base. You could barely see the sky for these swaths of insects everywhere. I think I've got some, on my little vlog camera, I've got some footage of it. It's just black. The swallows are everywhere. You could tell it was going to go off. I was watching carp bow wave in through from the islands, dorsals up. They were fry feeding. Everything was going off. Natural events in the lake. So exciting. And then the rod started firing. And it was hard. For a lake that can be tricky, this session made it feel easy. And you know, I can can tell you it's not. A lot of people struggle for long periods on that lake at times. So for it to kick off like that, I knew I had to make the most of it. And that trip, I ended up with 13 bites over a 3-day. I extended my trip. But out of that 13 fish, I lost 3 on the bounce, which was hurtful because it starts to bend your confidence when you've got great confidence in your bait and rigs. Losing 3 on the bounce, it was like, no. But I landed a lovely carp that I'd seen in the lake before and had a mate catch. We call it the nipple. It's got 1 peck, so it's peck chewed off one side and some big scars on its flanks. Lovely mid-30 old common, real cool one. Proper old warrior. Look at him. He is cool. Been through the wars, this one. Lovely old carp. Amazing, you know, the spots were working, they were visiting the spots, I was watching them come in from various areas where I'd spent hours and hours in this swim with binoculars, watching their routes in and out, up and down the bars, which weed beds they came from. It was all starting to come into fruition, and I certainly felt that my spots weren't the regular spots that other people fished in the swim a lot of the time. So that was the other great thing, you know. I always felt like I had my own little thing going throughout that period. I'm gonna have a quick flick onto the spots while it's sort of out of bite time. See what my ground's like. Percy don't like this. He hates this rod. Just the offending rod that he knocked off my brolly and it hit him. Ever since. As soon as I get the spawn rod out, he's hiding. He's trying to get in the bush as far away as possible. Horrible rod. That's the one. Yeah, boy. She's in the mix. I've just made the decision to take this rod out of the game. Basically, as the afternoons wore on, there's a lot of weed lifted up, it's gassed up, and it's just proved that my line's actually just stretching across the surface. The line lay's going to be terrible going into that spot, and quite a few times I've noticed the route of the fish in is from that direction, and they're just going to clock that I'm fishing for them. I'd rather sacrifice a third rod, get it out of the way, and leave me other 2 fishing properly with nice line lay into the zones. So yeah, rather than just be greedy and think, oh, I'm fishing 3, this one's going to be a problem, so I'm just going to get it out of the way. I mean, it's just coming straight over the top of that weed bed now. Terrible line lay. Finally feels like summer's here. Middle of July and it's just about happened. But what a day, beautiful, beautiful day. Got everything sorted out now. We're coming into that evening spell, that lovely magical time. Only little change that I made was bringing that third rod in, you know, got it out of the way. It's really weedy in this swim now, but yeah, chuffed to get back in here, to be fair. You know, we're sort of gunning for it. Bit disappointed this morning, but the fella's gone home, so I've gone straight in here. Spots are amazing. You know, that baiting and raking has all paid off. And obviously following on from last week's trip, you can see why I wanted to be in here. Weather's even better than last week. So I'm hoping to see a few fish tomorrow morning. And yeah, hopefully they get their heads down. I mean, it is hot. So, I don't know, we're looking at maybe 30 degrees by the end of the week. But great for this area of the lake. I'm really sort of confident. And yeah, it'd be nice if one of them big uns paid me a visit. And that led on to some great sessions, some frustrating ones at times, but some really good fishing over a nice hot spell through the summer. And I managed to sort of get in that swim a number of trips on the bounce. Occasionally I might have to spend a night in waiting man's wait for someone to pack up. But for the most part, I was able to drop in that swim fairly consistently. And I managed to clock up a nice number of bites. One real memorable one, I see the Pristine and a few of the other big fish visiting the spots. So again, I pulled an extra night, managed to phone the missus up and you know, extend the trip by a night. That particular trip, the following morning, one of the rods went off, and I was hoping and praying it could be one of the ones I wanted, and it was. It was one of these big, there's a group of grey mirrors in there, there's 4 of them. And I'd caught 3 of them up until this point, and this was the last one known as the EastEnders Linear. Spawned out, but again, another big 18 target of the lake, another one ticked off the list, as it were. And another bite nearer to the ultimate prizes, I suppose.
Wicked old carp. Been waiting to meet you, mate.
It was turning into a better year. As things progressed, things were becoming more and more electric. And over that following month, I saw that Pristine on a number of occasions. Unfortunately, it never slipped up. But things felt like they were coming together. You know, I knew I was in the right area. I'd got spots that were working. I was getting multiple hits of fish. And you know, there's nothing better than building confidence, and confidence breeds success. And you're doing everything in a fashion that is almost like it gets to the point where you don't need to all you need to worry about is where the carp. Everything else becomes second nature. That's what I'm trying to say. And you're in a state of flow, and that's what it was becoming. And it got to the latter part of the summer. And as I say, I'd seen the Pristine, I think 3 occasions at this point in the swim, alongside the other big mirror. Now there's another big mirror in there, I haven't mentioned it up until now, called the Box, quite a rare one. Did a couple of captures in the spring, hadn't been caught for over 2 years at that point. I saw that one a couple of times as well, so things were looking very, very good. Got down there on this particular session, and everything was perfect. Weather was perfect, the swim was perfect, the weed had hit the surface, the big uns had been visiting. I'd had the EastEnders Linear, the nipple, a few other good fish. Yeah, my confidence was sky high. And I remember getting a couple of bites early on in the trip, both small stockies. I think I just pictured them on the mat and put them back. And then I'd like message Dan and Joe saying, "Oh, it's looking really good. I've seen that Pristine in the area," and blah blah blah. An hour later, one of the rods has gone off, and it's a fish known as white tips, like a mid-30 common. So I phoned Joe up, said, "Any chance you come down with the cameras?" He's like, "Yeah, no problem." 20 minutes away, sort of thing. Anyway, I flicked the rod back out there, and it is going off out there. All flat spots, head and shoulder in over my spot. It's quite rare on there. Normally you just get bites out of the blue, but it was going off. And by the time Joe had got down to the swim, I'd already put another one back, and I'd have got a lovely mid-30 mirror in the sling as well. So I've got 2 mid-30s ready to sort of photograph and film. We got the first one out, and I remember just laying it on the mat, the common. Actually, one of the mid-30s, about 32, 33 pound, I think, from memory. Laid it on the mat, and I'm just about to lift it, and we've just heard one of my other rods going into meltdown.
Big gob on him, isn't he?
So Joe's dropped the camera, bundled the fish up. I'm legging it back to the swim. Rod's up off the rest, pulled into it. Another great fight. As I say, the weed's all up on the surface. There's weed moving through the swim. There's water, big winds are blowing, sort of 30, 40 mile an hour now by this point, and it's due to pick up stronger. And I'm playing this fish. It's right out the back of the swim now, in a big weed bed. Anyway, I'm pumping it back. All I can think about is I've seen this Pristine in the area. It's right out the back of that big weed bed, isn't he? You see him? Oh dear. That weren't what we wanted. I want his mate, not him. Oh. The big ones have been here for fucking 2 weeks. Been watching them. They've turned me over. I've got it right. They're turning up now, getting hooked. Just want the right ones to turn up. I've got 2 of the right ones. This one, I didn't want to hook, but there he is in the net. So we'll have a quick look at him and put him back. Oh, my heart sank from being right up here thinking that it's possibly the one that I really wanted, to looking in there and seeing the old Flint common again. You know, what can you say? Yeah, I was a bit gutted, if I'm honest, and you should never really say or feel that, because it's just part of the process. But it doesn't make you feel any better at the time, seeing you know, another one of the big ones that you've caught a number of times, and yeah, it's just one of those. But I was a bit gutted. Been laying with the old back out in the sun, mate. Yeah, sunburn and argillus. I reckon some of that's argillus eating away his skin. Yeah, he looks pretty good. Aside from that argillus and the bit of sunburn, he's been eating well, hasn't he? He's massive. If you put him on the scales. Is it? Yeah. 49?
Yeah, 49 an ounce.
Oh, fucking hell. Yeah, I thought it looked big. It looks huge, doesn't it? Wow. God bless you, baby. Still going strong after all these years. Sorry to mess up your morning. Go on, mate. Don't come knocking again. Fucking mental carp, that is. Absolute animal. Oh, I'm exhausted. Like wrestling with a rhino. There you go. Well, this is turning out to be an absolute epic session. The weather for August has gone off the charts. There's a massive push of oxygenated water flowing through the swim, ripped up weed in the margins. They are having it out there. How about that then? What a day. Day of days. 8 bites over the course of this trip, and the big ones have turned up today. With this one being one that I wanted to get my hands on for a while. So he's a super cool one. Really chuffed with him. And I quickly flicked the rods back out. I said, Joe, I remember that young local lad, he had the Flint common and the Pristine in very quick succession from each other, so I got the rods back out there really quick. But the wind picked up more and more that night, and I didn't get another bite. They'd gone. I was due to go home that morning anyway, so I wound in. Chuffed to bits really, had a great session. I ended up with 8 carp and a couple of ones that I hadn't caught before. And then I woke the next morning to the news that the Pristine had been caught from the pads that following day. So I knew it was just felt so close. She'd been in the area that morning, it was going off, it was unreal. But again, it's just that lottery that when your ticket numbers up, your ticket numbers up. And it wasn't my time, that was just the nuts and bolts of it. Did a few more trips after that, and then went on holiday. Yeah, you guessed it, I was away on holiday, someone dropped into the old murders, and the Pristine's made another mistake. So by this time I feel like, wow, this is incredible really. You know, what have I got to do to put a hook in that one? Yeah, and it just, again, just came down to complete and utter right time, right place, right moment, and just being resilient, constantly in touch with the lake. And even though I'm not a local, I sort of try and be as regular as I can on the water. And yeah, pushed through to the autumn period now. Caught a few nice carp, started fishing a few different swims, and yeah, putting a few bites together. And then again, going back to that water quality from the spring, I don't think it ever really recovered. And then we've just had the strangest of weather periods again. 3, nearly 4 weeks of flat calm, high pressure, low cloud base, again by a big blocking system in the Atlantic. And with all the dying weed beds and the water quality that we've got, started to suffer a little bit. And last week I did my last trip, and then the lake got shut for incredibly low dissolved oxygen levels. That's given me an earlier break than I'd normally have. Drew a line under it for this year, and yeah, probably the strangest of years, but I've taken a lot from it, learnt a lot again, and you know, that big un that's still swimming around in there, I've got all winter to think about, planning my next trip in the spring. I'll be back.